to the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, an unfiltered look into the global vacation and short-term rental industry.
I'm Mateo Bradford.
And I'm John Stokinger.
And this is our podcast. We bring the right people to the table at the right time, giving you an inside view and take on the short-term rental industry like no other podcast can.
Morning, Mateo. How are you?
Morning, John. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. Big day here. It's what is it? The 1st of February. It's
the 1st of February.
New sponsor. Excited about that. Things are shaping up. We're by the time this actually airs, we'll have hit 5,000 downloads.
Wow.
5,000. Wow. You think about it, what is it? April's going to be our year. And we got some plans coming up for our annual anniversary. Fingers crossed it all comes together. But what is it? This is season 2, episode 9, 8, 9. Mm-hmm. I think this is 9. But excited for our guest today. It's a lot of big things happening in the, this past week. I don't, obviously, selfishly,
it's okay. Go ahead.
All right.
All right. It's a huge week, man. We celebrate these wins, man.
All right. Hopper went live. Hopper went live. 2 million homes. Hopper Homes. Pretty excited about that. But next week, we're actually going to have Susan Ho on the show to talk about it. She's a revenue leader. She's she's the head of Hopper Homes, and we're excited to have her on next week. But let's talk about who we have on this week. I'm really excited. The one, the only. I've had the privilege of interviewing in the past. So if you're listening and you were jumped back in on the Tracking with John days, he's been on the show before. The one and only founder and CEO of Vintory. Brooke, how are you?
Wow. Excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me, guys. I feel, this is I'm an OG, right? I was on the old school days with you, John.
Yeah, that was just kind of when I was getting my chops and trying out some new things for track and seeing how far they let me push the envelope. And to their credit, they gave me a really long leash. So I to kudos and shout out to TravelNet and Track for allowing me to be me. And just letting me run with some shit, and it was pretty awesome. No regrets, and it gave us a springboard to come into to do this, which Mateo and I have been talking about doing a long time. And speaking of big, Vintory is our obviously we just all heard the soundbite here, but you're you're sponsoring the podcast.
We did. We're sponsoring the pod. Yeah, we're big fans, and we're big fans of podcasts in general. At least I am personally, and just love to support the industry and do anything we can to kind of help get the good word out. Happy to do it. So excited.
So you know what? I there's something I didn't even tell you, John. This is all really coming full circle.
Okay.
Because when I knew we were having Brooke on, I was just going through some things. And it hit me, and I remember I met Brooke the same weekend I met you. Same time, same place I met you.
Oh, no shit. I must have purposely avoided Brooke because I didn't meet him at that time. It must have been.
Was that Gallenberg?
Yeah. Do you remember up at that little Alpine Summit up there? And I was
Vera Mintel's little conference they did a couple years back. Yeah.
Man, I was running around chasing, trying to get after Steve Milo and going through all these conversations. And I remember Brooke and I had a great conversation. And this is during the live res times, right? When I knew it rented. And and so I was thinking, I was like, man, it's great having Brooke on. And then I was like, oh shit, that's the same weekend I met John. So all of this coming full circle and you being the first sponsor, man. So this is really awesome. So this means a lot to me personally. Thank you for the support of the show, man, but really happy to have you on, man. Really anxious to dig in and get your story. So let's go.
Well, let's do it.
Well, real quick before we dig into the Vintory and Brooke story, I do want to give a shout out to we just mentioned Vera Mintel. Amy High now just put out this couple days ago that, you know, she's back after taking a much needed and deserving break. And holy crap, she's coming in strong in 2022, 4 or 5 regional shows, all VRMintels and DARM. Like I'll be at every one. Like they are, if you haven't been to a VRMintel, if they're coming to your neck of the woods, I highly encourage you to go. Again, it's we talk about this a lot, but it's Mateo and I's meeting place. We're like an old married couple now. You know, where did you meet? You know, it's like that's our cute meet story. but yeah, if you haven't checked out a VRMintel event in person, I highly recommend it. There's going to be 4 or 5 regional ones this year.
And I love them. I love them just because they're regional and allows sometimes people that wouldn't normally maybe go to a full, VRMA international show. It allows some of these people where it's in their backyard to go.
They're affordable.
Exactly.
Tons of solid information.
Yeah.
The value.
I met a couple people at that Gatlinburg one, Mateo, and I mean, they said that was their first conference they've ever been to, and it opened up a whole world to them. So the more it can do and just get people out there and learn, more about the industry and just get better, sharpening the proverbial saw, I think is good for everybody and good for the industry. Let's
talk about Brooke. Like, everyone has their story of how they came into the space. You were Vantage Resort Really president, co-founder, back in, the earlier 2000s. Was that your first like taste of short-term rental? Like, how did you get from, first Commonwealth funding prior to that, to where you are today?
Yeah, it's a great question. And just like you all, and just like it seems like everybody in this industry just about, I just happened to stumble into it. And I was in mortgage banking right out of college, graduated a degree in corporate finance, went into mortgage banking, decided to start my own mortgage banking firm at the ripe age of 25, built that company really fast. Thought that was going to be my career. Just had a very successful company. We had 100 employees doing 350 million in loans a year, had all the toys, I was like, this is it. All right, we're good. I got it. And then 2007 happened and completely lost everything. I was in a group called YPO and Young Presidents Organization. And a guy that was in my group, he said, hey, Brooke, at this point, we still had the company. We were doing anything we could to stay alive. I hadn't had a paycheck in a year, kind of thing. Man. And he's like, and it was actually doing reverse paychecks, if you know what that is, where I was writing, $20,000, $30,000 checks every couple of weeks just to cover payroll. He was in my YPO group and he said, hey, Brooke, I see, I'm reading the same headlines you're reading. The mortgage business isn't looking any better. What are you doing over there? He's like, I've had this idea for about 5 years to start a vacation rental company. I've just been waiting for the right guy to partner up with. Why don't you be my partner in this? He's like, I'll put all the money into it. You'll be my partner. You're president, CEO. You get to run this thing and you get to do this. And I said, this guy's name was Brad. I said, Brad, you realize I know nothing about vacation rentals. And where we're talking about doing this, Ocean City is about 3 hours from here. And he goes, Brooke, you're an entrepreneur. You'll figure it out. And I took the leap and did it. So every Monday I would get in my car, I'd drive down to Ocean City and I'd talk to anybody stupid enough to listen to me, kind of the vision and the idea of what we wanted to do, kind of a unique, different kind of a vacation rental management company. And, Ocean City has one of these things where it's like, how many people have come from across the bridge and try to start businesses here? It'll never work. And I'm like, all right, I appreciate that, but do you know anybody stupid enough to listen to me and you'd recommend? And they're like, oh yeah, well, talk to Grace. She's stupid enough. She'll listen to you.
Talk to Grace. She's pretty stupid.
Yeah. And the funny thing is I couldn't get anybody to meet with me, but I remember this is like 2007. So we didn't have an office at the time. So the only way I could get people to meet up with me is I set up shop at Roost Chris Steakhouse. And I just had to bribe people with free food and drinks and dinner, you know what I mean? And they were able actually to meet with me. They're like, well, hell, maybe at least I'll get a free, steak out of it kind of thing. So that was my office. The poor manager at Roost Chris, I would just pull up in the park in the corner of the bar in my laptop and just have interviews there. But anyways, long story short, we got a little bit of momentum, got an office. Maryland is one of those states where you have to get a real estate license. So unfortunately, I didn't have real estate experience. So you had to get a real estate broker. So I had to recruit a real estate broker. And then we were able to do that. And, after, it took, maybe 6 months or something like that till we actually kind of had a business, if you will, and a broker. And then, we're off to the races. And, it started slow. I always tell all of our partners right now that, those first couple properties are the hardest to get. But once you start getting momentum, it kind of builds on itself. And, before you know it, we ended up growing this thing pretty quickly. And we grew it from, long story short, we grew it from an idea literally on the back of a legal seafood napkin to 500 properties in 5 years.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive, pretty impressive track record there. And, but you didn't stop there. Like you went from there, and then I see you're in Orlando. Like,
yeah.
Well, how does that transition happen? That seems like a really...
Well, what I found is I loved growth. I loved like inventory acquisition. I loved getting the supply. I realized I wasn't really a good operator. When if you think about it, like that kind of growth and with very little systems and processes, we were literally just like, it was crazy. And ended up, I had the opportunity to, at this time, again, after living out of a suitcase for 5 years, it probably needed me to move down there, and I wasn't really willing to move the family down there and things like that. And had the opportunity to exit that business, sell my shares in that business, and then become chief business development officer for a large property manager down in Orlando. But the beauty of that was all I had to do was, just literally build up a sales team and grow inventory. I didn't have to deal. Once we signed the contract, we turned it over to an owner relations manager. So, It was just focusing on growth. We expanded into multiple markets. We expanded to Captiva Island, Sun Valley, Idaho. We bought a company in San Diego. So it was really a cool kind of,
And were you doing that remote from Maryland?
So actually I was commuting that way too. The only difference is I wasn't driving. I was flying via Southwest Airlines. So I spent a ton of time on the road, doing that, but it was a fun journey and really kind of just, again, focused on all things inventory acquisition. That's all I was doing. And that was the part that, again, I really enjoyed. And I, wasn't like going to work, and I was blessed to be pretty good at it.
I mean, this is all part of that, that framework, that quilt you built to, then you had a brief stint at LiveRes, and then, to come to where you were. I mean, I remember truly first, and I'd heard about Vintory, but it was actually another VRMintel event where I actually met you, like we actually had a conversation, was right at the beginning of COVID, was down at Sandestin. That was like, you had a team, and the majority of your team, or some of your team, all came from LiveRes. If I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you had
not all. We had a couple people, but yeah.
Okay. But that was like really, at that time, you were really starting to you had just come off of, your LiveRes VP of sales and marketing. And then you had, what made you go, what, we're doing this. I'm going to do this. I'm building this.
Well, the funny thing is I've always had like in the back of my mind, like, maybe starting a consulting agency, be almost like the Doug Kennedy of inventory supply, because I really enjoyed it. Right. And then when I was at LiveRes, that's when I really got into, I was like, man, this whole world of software and SaaS, right? Software as a service. And a transformational moment for me was I read a book called Subscribed by Tien Tzu, probably one of my favorite books ever. I've probably read it 5 times. And he's like employee number 3 at Salesforce. And what he talks about is how everything is moving to a subscription economy. And then again, I nerded out on SaaS metrics at LiveRes, and I was like, man, this is freaking cool. I love software. It's infinitely scalable and things like that. And just the recurring revenue business model is beautiful. And Tina, the COO at LiveRes, we had these advisory boards, and she said, Brooke, they just need somebody to, they need some life support. Can you do something with this? So I said, sure. So I actually implemented some of the things I did at YPO, kind of brought it more to like a YPO kind of like mastermind experience. Mm-hmm. And EO was a group entrepreneurs organization I'm in currently. and kind of turned it into more of that kind of experience than a true advisory board. And it was transformational. Those groups, even like, gosh, 7-8 years later, are still getting together every month. It's amazing. I'm so proud that there's how powerful that was for them. But what I learned in those mastermind groups is the number one pain point that most vacation rental managers have is getting supply, getting more inventory. And there wasn't any company out there that was doing this. And I said, man, I'm like, this is something, again, I really enjoy. I've been blessed to be pretty good at. There's nobody doing it. Like, I'm positioned probably better than anybody out there to do this. Let me go out there and start a company. And that was kind of the launch of it. So I called like 4 or 5 people that I knew in the industry. I said, hey, I kind of gave them the pitch. I said, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what it'll look like. And just giving them the vision. And every one of them said, Brooke, shut up, I'll sign up. And I was like, well, I guess I just started a business, and that's how it started. And it was, it was really just when we started, it was really, it kind of was that marketing agency, kind of consulting agency type of start, because I didn't have anything, right? It was just me, and I had a contractor in Canada, a graphic designer in Canada, and that was it. That was the company. And next thing you know, we signed up one, we signed up another, and I was like, man, we caught that proverbial lightning in a bottle. You could just tell. It's like, and then I was like, we got to do something here. And I realized a big part of kind of inventory acquisition comes down to, software solutions. And another kind of transformational moment for me was I read there was a editorial from Mark Andreessen, the founder of Netscape, and Andreessen Horowitz. And he wrote an article about 10 years ago. It said, software is eating the world. And he just talks about how you in the future, you will not have software companies and non-software companies. Every company will be some sort of software company, and it's coming to fruition for sure. So but I didn't know how to write one lick of code or anything like that. And so I said, you know what, maybe we can just shoehorn and kind of Frankenstein a bunch of like off the shelf type software solutions. So what we did is we just would partner. We became HubSpot certified partners. We brought in, HubSpot for the CRM, and that became kind of the backbone of everything. And the beauty of HubSpot is you can plug it into any other products out there, through APIs and things. So we plugged it into oh my God, we plugged it into like, Unbounce and Unbounce for landing pages, and CallRail for call tracking. And just, we had this suite of like a dozen different like software solutions. And I'm like, damn, this is a pretty good product. I'm like, that works. And so, we started as like this marketing agency, then we kind of bolted together and Frankenstein this software solution. And then we hired a couple of data scientists to kind of help us on the data side. And, and again, we're growing like crazy. And I said, you know what, like, even though HubSpot's fantastic, like it still doesn't do everything I wanted to do. So what we were able to do is actually, while we were growing, we were able to kind of, through all the learnings and iterating through learning from the partner base, we were able to build our own software solution. But in a typical SaaS business, you have this cash flow trough in the early days, right, where you're losing a ton of money, right? That's why most software companies have to raise a ton of capital to get through that cash flow trough. But because we were able to kind of build up the business, and we built it as a subscription business, we built it as a SaaS, even though we weren't a SaaS from day one, we were able to kind of self-fund our growth and self-fund the development. So we fast forward today, we launched our own software platform this past March. We switched everybody from those other solutions onto ours. So we instantly became a profitable, software company. And, and we're a little bit more than that, obviously, too. But it's, look, I don't think it was intelligence or anything like that. It was just dumb luck. And I was freaking broke. I had no other choice to do it this way. And that kind of forced us to bootstrap and do it this way. But in retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to us.
You're not the bootstrapping like this is obviously, if you can do it, it's, you're not tied down to anybody, and a great example. And I know I worked there for 2 years, and Track did a great job, Travel Net did, bootstrapped. And there's tons of companies that, and then there's others that, are no longer around that didn't go the bootstrap method because they didn't have the opportunity to do so. They weren't maybe, it's not that they weren't smart, but they said, oh, we're going to get this funding and we're going to go ahead and do so. It's a great success story. I love hearing it.
It forces you to be scrappy. It forces you to be scrappy and kind of do things very efficiently. And if you're sitting on a couple $1 million in cash, you sometimes don't take the easy road, right? Or you do take the easy road, and and it just, I think having this kind of in our DNA and our culture, the company, I think will help us for eternity. That's for sure.
And a couple million goes quick. Like,
well, yeah. You got a couple million you want to lend me and let me find out personally?
Yeah, sure. I got you. You know, I know you're good for it.
Okay.
Well, we just sponsored you guys. You're sitting on it, right?
Yeah. we wish that was the sponsorship.
I didn't see that contract. Right. Yeah.
Wasn't that the platinum sponsor?
Yeah. I think we're going to have to talk to Will about this.
Oh, he's skimming off the top of everything. That's right.
One of the things, Brooke, I look at you and I look at our journey, the journey I've seen you take, right, in the short window that I've known you. You've surprised me in a lot of ways. And I think one of the things, you know, is just number one, your leadership and perseverance in being able to actually build out something. But there's something else about it. But you're a stud, man. I remember talking to you at one point when I was at Rented and you were like, yeah, man, I think it was you were training for an Ironman or something like that. And where I'm going with this is I think it speaks to the mindset of, you know, that is something that separates, right, you know, athletes from other athletes, the ability to perform at a different level. And I gotta say, when you and I have had these conversations, you leave nuggets that are lasting, that make people think in different ways, and have definitely made me think of different ways. Because I remember when you were explaining Vintory to me the first time, I was like, I don't get this. Like, I don't understand how it's gonna work. And we didn't go into the details, but I was like, I didn't get this. And then, you know, fast forward a year later, you're killing it, right? You're, you know, everyone's loving it, and it's the right formula. And those nuggets actually then made sense. Talk to me a bit about how did these things develop for you? Because when you sit on the outside and you look in, it looks like it was just a smooth process with building that business and building a team and making it run. But talk to me a little bit about, you know, not the theory, but like the application of making Vintory what it is today, and the things that in your past or in your life that really gave you the ability to persevere and get to where you are today. Any nuggets you can share about that?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. I'll highlight the Ironman. So I did an Ironman. I was able to complete a full Ironman back. It's been a while, been a long time, but maybe probably, close to a decade ago. My wife said I was allowed to do one, and that was it. So I trained like crazy because I didn't want to fail, you know. But one of the here's a good nugget though with Ironman. So first off, when I started training for an Ironman, or triathlons in general, I couldn't swim one lap in a pool, literally. Like, I could breaststroke it, but like, you know, freestyle, I had no idea how. And for me, it's all about setting the goal and then making the plan and then executing it, right? So for me, like, you know, and I'm a big believer in this thing called Kaizen. It's the Japanese art of like small incremental improvements. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like, you know, okay, it's like if I were to tell an average person like myself, you know, from a decade ago that couldn't swim a lap in a pool, you're going to, you know, do an Ironman, like how the hell do you do that? And it's like baby steps, right? So step one, sign up for a 5K, right? That's it, right? Just sign up for the 5K. Step two, you research running shoes. You know, step three, buy running shoes. Step four, just step on the treadmill. Don't even turn it on. Day five, you know what I mean? Walk for 5 minutes and just do those little incremental steps. And then it doesn't become to seem to be like a daunting task. And then, you know, when I then kind of went from, you know, kind of road races and running to triathlons, it was like, find the shortest freaking swim you could find, you know, and then just kind of do those little stair steps. And before you know it, and again, what Ironman taught me and what triathlons taught me in general was you set the goal, you make the plan, you work your ass off, you surround yourself with really good team and people, you can literally execute anything. So here's an overweight guy that doesn't know how to swim in a lap in a pool. And, you know, a couple years later, I'm finishing an Ironman, albeit pretty slow, but I did finish it. And that's all that matters. And that's what taught me. So hopefully that's helpful for some people. But as far as like Vintory, it kind of, there's a lot of nuggets, I guess, in that Ironman analogy. It's just jump in, right? Just start it. You're never going to be fully ready. The product is never going to be fully baked and developed. Just jump in, you roll out something, you test it, you iterate, you get it better. I mean, again, what does Reid Hoffman with LinkedIn say? He's like, you know, or Sam Altman with Y Combinator is like, you know, being launched so early that you're embarrassed by your first release, right?
Right.
Like launch a product so early that you're embarrassed by it, because if you try to fully develop it and fully bake it, like you're not gonna get a feedback from the customers. So
and not only you're not going to get you're going to get passed up. Like you got to rip that Band-Aid off. Like if you have this like this amazing idea that like if you hadn't started Vintory when you did, you might not have been at the forefront of this.
Yeah.
Like, there's lots of people that wish they had jumped in and doing what you did and how you did it when you did it. But, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, but exactly. And it's just jump in, try something, test it, iterate, get better, get better, get better. It's like I keep telling the team, get 1% better every day. Just get 1% better every day. And I mean, to think, we've got, over 200 companies on our platform. We've got over 50 employees now. I mean, like we're killing it. And, just to think, it's been less than 3 years. 3 years ago, it was me and one contractor, a graphic designer in Canada. You know what I mean? And now so it's just continually just jump in, try it, get better and better and better every day, and just, test and iterate.
Do you still have that first client?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, CJ Stam, Blue Ridge, Georgia.
I was about to say.
Nice.
Shout out to CJ. For sure.
Yeah. He took a flyer on me, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I don't think who knows? Maybe it would have launched, but because he kind of had the confidence in me, then we did it, and got our second partner, Matt Tesdahl, of Family Time Vacation Rentals.
Nice.
He lives in Willamette Valley, but he's out in southern Utah, and just a great.
Shout out to Matt and the big live res guy. Well, both actually. It's awesome. I know that those that are listening to podcasts, they heard the nugget talking about some of the value prop of Vintory and what what is going to, but what someone that's never used Vintory, like, can you explain it in layman's terms? Like, what is Vintory in your words, and what, how with the investment they're going to do with Vintory, what's the return? Like what are they going to get out of it? And, you got 200 clients in 3 years. That's amazing and growing. Some of my favorite people in the space swear by you all. Like, they're like, holy shit, we signed up with Vintory and we're getting this much return. Our inventory is doubled. Like tell us in your words what this is all about.
Yeah. So I guess in layman's terms, Vintory is a sales and marketing platform that helps vacation rental managers grow their inventory. So we don't deal with guests, we don't deal with operations, we don't deal with OTAs. We're focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's to be the best on the planet at supply, right? And it's one part, it's three parts to it. It's data, it's kind of a marketing agency, and then it's the software solution that pulls it all together. So data is like the foundation of it, right? We have 4 data scientists on the team that go out there and really building out a good target list, because they say 50% of all marketing just comes down to your list. And then it's the marketing agency. So we're a full marketing agency, and we help, build out all their campaigns, whether it's postcards, whether it's email, whether it's digital, whether it's landing pages, whatever it happens to be, we build out all that for you. And then the last part of it is the software and the software solution. So it's a CRM and marketing automation, which is much more than that kind of ties this all together in a nice, neat little package. But really the premise behind it was, if you look at the large venture-backed conglomerates, right, the business development teams that they have are insane. I mean, I think I heard then this is years ago, Vacasa has 177 people in their business development department. They've got all the tools, all the resources. They see the value of inventory, so they're investing in this. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to level the playing field. I wanted to say, look, can we build out a team? Can we build out a product? Can we build out all the team that you would need of a venture-backed company like that, but give it to the average mom and pop shop, right? So give all those resources to the average, CJ Stam, Matt Tesdahls, and allow them go head to head, toe to toe against the big boys and win. And you know what I mean? And that's what we've done. So we've built this team. I mean, so for less than the price of like a part-time assistant, you are getting a biz dev ops team that is honed in, that is the best on the planet at inventory acquisition. And this is all we do for a very, very inexpensive price. to help you grow your inventory. Because look, I've been in their shoes. I know how busy you are. You are, as a GM or CEO or owner of a vacation rental management company, you are freaking busy, man. You've got 1,000 balls in the air. You know what I mean? At any given point, your phone is blowing up from owners, from guests, from whatever it happens to be, regulations. It's like inventory acquisition becomes one of those things you're like, oh shit, I got to do this. You know what I mean? And I know it's important, but it's not urgent.
It's everyone's number one need right now. And it's not just like, it's the big guys and small guys, like everyone's clamoring to get some inventory. And it's been like this for a couple of years and it's not going away. You know, it's going to, you know, and now you're competing on top of competing with the Vicasas and everything else. You're also competing with these big venture backed companies that are coming in and like, and buying these multifamily and, you know, it's these different aspects of how to go ahead and get inventory, and they want to get into the STR space. So now, like, it's even more important to have a good plan together and how to attack this. And how do we go ahead and, you know, I like to look at, you know, companies like yourself as if I was a property management company, like a company like Vintory being like an extension of my team, you know, exactly. You know, this is, you know, and I think that's exactly what you're building.
100%. Yeah. And we have, you know, we have multiple tiers. We have anything from just if you want just the software, if you just want the software, you can get that, you know, that's our light tier. It's, you know, less than $300 a month. If you want, you know, the full outsourced team where you're getting, you know, a team of 4 data scientists, you're getting a team of like multiple graphic designers, multiple copywriters, you know, you get a dedicated partner success manager that is like a ninja at inventory acquisition. You get that full team. I mean, that, you know, on our enterprise tier, you can do that too. But again, it's still less than the price of a part-time assistant, you know?
Right. And the ROI, once you get one home, one ad, and like what is that? Like, what does that look like to, you know, like, can you give us some super basic, easy listening to math on like what that would look like?
Yeah. And I love this topic. And very few people have actually gone through the calculations of actually understanding what the value of one property is. But when you actually start doing the math of the true value of one contract, then you see, you know, just how valuable it really is. But so, you know, we've asked this question over 200 times. And the average vacation rental manager makes about 10% margins, net profit margins based on the gross booking revenue. So if you've got a property that's doing 50K in gross booking revenue, you take that times 10%, that's $5,000 a year in profits. Now that's just owner rate, right? That's the net rental rate before taxes and fees and things like that. So $5,000 a year, but then you don't keep a property in your rental program for 1 year, right? You keep it for multiple years. To calculate, you know, how long you keep it in your rental program, there's a kind of a formula. You just take what your churn is. Churn is what percentage of your inventory do you lose, you know, in a given year, and the average is about 10%. So to come up with your lifetime in years, you just take 1 divided by 10%. So it comes out to 10 years. So quick summary: the average lifetime in years is 10 years. Your average profit on that property is $5,000. So the average lifetime value is $50,000 for that one property in profits. So here's a quick little hack. Assuming you're in industry, you know, averages with churn and things like that, and margins, your lifetime value is equal to the gross booking revenue. So if you have a property that's doing 50K, your lifetime value in net profits is 50,000. If you have a property that's doing 75K, you're going to make 75K over the life of that. So that's pretty significant. I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, $50,000 or $75,000 is no joke. But then you also get, you know, you're going to get a check if and when you decide to sell your business. The true value, when you sell your company, when you sell your management company, the true value of your company, I hate to say it, it's not your guest database, it's not your beautifully wrapped, you know, vans and trucks. The value of those management contracts. And those values are, you know, anywhere between, I mean, I've seen them as low as 7,000 and I've seen them, you know, all the way up to, you know, $100,000, but average, you're looking about 20 to 30K per contract.
So if you got 300, 100 properties at, you know, 20, 30K, so average at 25. And then but with that, what is, when you go ahead and purchase, like, what's the, you know, when you sell a company, and maybe this is like, what's the churn of owner contracts when you transition?
It really depends on the company. I mean, some companies we've seen do it churn very, very little. I think I've heard, and this has not been validated, but I've heard churn for Vacasa can be as high as 20 to 30% post acquisition. You know, but with that said, I don't know if you saw this, but when they pushed out their investor deck in July, their average price per contract was $21,000 on their corporate development side. 21K. That includes even like the clawbacks and things like they had for properties that churned and transitioned over. So they're paying $21,000 a contract. But here's an interesting point.
I like this stat because I remember you shared this a little bit ago. Keep going with this. So this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, so they paid $21K a contract, but they still had a 25% IRR post that. So even though they're paying $21K a contract, they're still making 25% IRR post it. So, I mean, it just shows how profitable these are. And if you look historically at other companies that have been, purchased, that are public, and again, we have access to a lot of different things, from M&A perspective and things like that. And, we know Jim and Jacoby Olin really well too. And but if you look at the public information that's out there, so when Vacasa bought Wyndham, they paid $18,000 a contract. When I think it's Vitruvian bought Sykes Cottages, they paid $27,000 a contract. Jeez. And the one that was really kind of like just blew everyone's mind was the Vacasa acquisition of Turnkey. They paid $103,000 per contract.
What?
Just insane.
Oof.
That's nuts. What about
value of contract? Every one of those contracts is worth money. Yeah. Bottom line, everyone's worth money.
You got to think that there's smart people in the back of the room doing that math, right? So what is the real value of that going to be down the road if they were willing to spend that much? It's going to be interesting to see, 5 years from now, what the ROI on that is for sure.
I think of like a Turnkey that's footprint. It's like, it's markets that they weren't in that potentially they are now, hey, I mean, I know Turnkey and Vacasa were in a lot of the same markets, but what is that number of markets where they weren't in? Like if it was worth it for them to go ahead, and it was a huge number of contracts. I mean, obviously it was their biggest acquisition to date. That would be my assumption is footprint is, on top of inventory is like location too.
And they knew they were going to get a lift once they went public. You know what I mean? So it was very strategic. I'm sure all the bankers did the math on it and it was still worth it. And, it also, supposedly Turnkey had a pretty solid tech stack, and that helped, again, the whole positioning of trying to get Vacasa to be, priced at a tech valuation versus a property management valuation.
Right. I want to go ahead and there's one other Vacasa stat that you shared in the past, and I know we're not here to talk Vacasa, but I do want to. There was a stat that you shared about when they went public, or maybe previously where they're public. They were talking about where they need to get as far as how much inventory they need to go ahead and acquire, based on where they were today to meet their end of year goals or quota, which was. And I can't remember the exact stat, but it was basically the number of inventories the amount of inventory they had right now that they've acquired for this whole length of the time that being Vacasa, they almost needed to do just that much in 2022. Is that, am I somewhere on the right lines?
And I apologize. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I did put some kind of post out there when I was looking through the Vacasa, deck and kind of where they want to be and their growth trajectory. It was the equivalent. I mean, it was something insane, John. But it was something to the effect of like, they needed to do like a Wyndham acquisition, 2 of those a year or something to kind of hit their numbers. And a big part of this comes down to too, is if you look at Vacasa's churn. So this was, very few people saw this, but if you looked at the Vacasa's investor deck from last July, they have a 22% churn, which is only a 4.6 year lifetime. So what we've seen in the average, of our of the partners that we deal with, we see a churn about 10% on average and a 10-year lifetime. So if we had a client that, had a 22% churn and only a 4.6 year lifetime, we'd be coaching them on how to, retain their properties as opposed to growing. But again, it's still, to them apparently, and to the bankers, it's still, the math still pencils out. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're going to achieve the goals they need to do based on their current churn rates. And there's no more big acquisitions for them to buy for them to hit those numbers. So organically, there's just, that's a heck of a lot of small, 300 to 500 property acquisitions to kind of make up for it. I personally don't foresee them being able to do it because the numbers that they were going for was just so insane.
Well, maybe they need to hire a company like Vintory.
We only represent the smaller mom and pop shops. We're here to kind of level the playing field. So,
well, I think it brings up an interesting topic of a place I want to go next is I think the one way to get there is it's your talent, right? And it's the people that are going to get you there, right? Having the goal is one thing, right? You said something earlier, goal planning and execution, right? And if you think about it within that space, who's doing that? Who do you have on your team, right? And Vicasa's had some amazingly talented people, but leaving them alone and looking over your shoulder, for those who are on YouTube and can see, Brooke has something hanging off of his Vintory sign that I really want to dig into, because for me personally, I think this is the differentiator in terms of keys to success. It's who's your team and what is your work culture and what can you give to your clients? And, are you giving them the best in the business? Are you giving them people who are energized and are interested in what they are doing, or are you giving them people that are just in there crunching numbers, there to collect a paycheck, don't care more than, just the basic functionality of their job? And that all comes into who are your people? What is your workplace like? And how are they integral to your success?
Yeah, no, I mean, building a good team. So my job is actually relatively easy. I only do two things. And that's the vision, the strategy, and kind of goal setting. And then it's working on the team and the culture. That's it. Literally. That's all I do. I mean, 90% of my day is actually on the phone with recruiting and talking to prospects. And I do it first, as opposed to kind of going through and kind of getting the first entry level recruiter and things like that. I actually do the recruiting on the front end, and kind of once I kind of get my blessing, then I pass it out to my team and I'll let them interview them and see if they want to do it. But yeah, building a good culture was number one goal for me. We have a whole series of goals. My number one goal is to, be recognized as a top company to work for. And it's not really the vanity of it. It's really because I don't like squishy goals. And how do you, building a good culture, how do you how do you quantify that? So being recognized, I figured if we were recognized by some kind of third party organization as a top company to work for, then obviously we hit that goal. So, but really it starts with a couple different things. And the first is getting the right people, on the bus, use a Jim Collins analogy, getting the right people on the bus and then getting them in the right seats. And it's like, how do you do that? If you get people that are doing what they're naturally meant to do, that makes it so much easier. So we're big fans of psychometric personality assessments. So we use big fans of culture index and predictive index, just making sure that the people you hire are meant to do what they're meant to do, right? And if you do that, that's half the battle, right? I mean, it's stacking. I was just talking to a guy last night. It's like it's stacking the deck in your favor, right? You still have to interview them. You still have to see their intelligence, their moral compass, and drive, and all these other things. But if you have a good idea of who they are, and for the position that you're looking for, that's half the battle. But really building that culture of trust and respect has been pretty important for us. I mean, we've done an incredible job of it. I've been so blessed. I mean, we've got a 82 on our net promoter scores for our team members, which if you know anything about net promoter score, that's insane.
Yeah, just NPS is super high.
Yep.
NPS.
Yeah, I mean, I give you a baseline. The average of Ritz-Carlton, I call it the NAR index. Nordstrom's, Apple, and Ritz-Carlton is only like a 68 or 69. So if we're at an 82 on net promoter score, it just gives you kind of an idea of the culture we've built. And if you go to our Glassdoor reviews, these are 100% authentic, legit reviews. We've got 5 out of 5 stars. And the things I read on there, I mean, literally it's whenever I'm down and out, I kind of just go to that website and read some of those reviews, and just it really.
And there's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of companies that could go to Glassdoor and boost their spirits.
I encourage. Every time I interview somebody, I say, look, do me a favor, don't believe me, go to our Glassdoor reviews. These are legit, authentic, and read what the team has to say. And usually if we do that, we get them if we want them. And but we're 100% remote. People like obviously but we built that culture from the beginning where we've been remote. And not only that, I mean, I think there's another thing we do is we have a really good business operating system. So we run EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, and the combination of that with culture index and predictive index and just giving people the latitude they need. we always say, we don't measure hours work, we measure outcomes, right? And, and giving them the flexibility, it's like, look, if you need to go take your kid to the doctor 2 o'clock in the afternoon, do it, right? If you need to, go for a run in the afternoon, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like I wake up between 4 and 5 every day, you know what I mean? But I'll go for a run in the middle of the day, you know what I mean? To just kind of get out, and that's fine, and
I'm cutting out today at 3 o'clock so I can take the kids ice skating. I'm like, I blocked it out. It's important. It's a big reason why I'm where I am today as well. It's super important.
And it seems like this is what's going to happen in the future, right? Because you look at the state of kind of employment in our industry, but even broadly, right, in the greater economy, with what workers are willing to accept. I think it's going to be fascinating over the next couple of years to see how work changes for people. Where
it's coming. I mean, I've listened. We talked about before. I've listened to tons of podcasts and really, really smart people. We're going back to that we're going to like a gig economy, right? Where everybody will almost be. And the funny thing is, if you look historically, go back like hundreds of years, like the premise of going to a big office and, in a city, you know what I mean? And working 9 to 5, and you did that for your career. Like that was only for a short period of time. And we were a country of entrepreneurs, right? You had the blacksmith and the bar owner and things like that. I think you were going to end up evolving, to that, where it's going to be a bunch of, and especially, look, COVID, we all know this, COVID just accelerated certain trends that were happening anyways. It just leapfrogged it by, a decade at least. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because I think, this is my personal opinion, but I think also the emergence of AI and how that's going to completely change, especially corporate work, right? And the ability to not have to have certain jobs within companies anymore because of technology, AI, and these other things is going to completely transform the way that, forget corporations, but what is that going to spur people to do? Because it's going to create new industries. It's going to create new companies, maybe at a smaller scale. I think we're going to see less massive corporations that, have thousands and thousands of people working for them. And I think we'll see lots of smaller companies, but it doesn't mean they're going to do it right. And I think you said something earlier. It's like, oh, this is all I do. This is incredibly challenging. Building culture in a company is incredibly challenging. Building a remote company, a culture at a company is super challenging. There's no playbook, right? And so I think, being able to kind of put that feather in your cap and continue to do that is going to be, something great to watch. I wish you great success with that, but
appreciate that. And it was easier. I appreciate that, Matteo. And it was easier because we started from day one remote. And, one of the reasons I actually like it is, we can hire the best talent regardless of where they live. Right. You know what I mean? If I live outside of Baltimore, if I had to hire just people that had vacational experience outside of Baltimore, there's probably 3 people, out there I could get. Now my team is, all over the US. I've got Canadian employees. I've got Filipinos. I've got one guy in Doha, Qatar. We've got an international team, and I'm hiring the best talent regardless of where they live. That's awesome. It works well for me.
I want to go ahead and I know we're getting to time here, and I want to make sure that we get the right allocations to the property managers out there to go ahead and reach out to you. Please go to vintory.com/no BS if you're interested in adding inventory. I know this isn't a tips and tricks, but we want to go ahead and make sure that you're reaching out to them. What you're going to get for connecting with Vintory and Brooke and the team there is you're going to get a free homeowner marketing list up to 500 records. You're going to get a free homeowner landing page. You're going to try Vintory software risk-free for 60 days, and they're throwing in a $50 gift card to one person on the company for booking a demo with them. So, this is no joke. If you're looking at going ahead and be like, shoot, I could just use 5 more properties, 1 more property. Like I really need to get from 15 to 20. I need to get from 500 to, whatever the number is, where if you're trying to grow, it doesn't hurt to reach out and, but again, vintory.com/no BS. There'll be a link on our page. We're super stoked to have Brooke on today. And we're absolutely we love partnering with Vintory.
Yeah. And on the other side of that too, I don't want to negate that you're hiring, right, Brooke? So, this is, people out, we have listeners that, may be a good fit for what you got going on too. So definitely want to give you the opportunity to let our listeners know what you're looking for and if it's something they're interested in and how best to get a hold of you.
Yeah, no, we got multiple roles we're hiring for right now. We're in that hyper growth mode. If you just go to Vintory.com and then go to our careers page, you can see the different positions we're hiring for. But culture is number one. We unlimited PTO, matching 401k, stock, phantom equity. We'll actually pay for 2 weeks of travel for you per year. And a whole bunch of other things. Free gym membership. We got really good benefits. So if anybody's looking to come work remote, and reach out to me or email me at Brooke with the Brooke at Vintory.com.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to leave our listeners today, Brooke?
Yeah, no, just our mission from the beginning has been to help every single vacation rental manager grow their inventory, whether they're a Vintory partner or not. So we've got a whole slew of content, pushed out tons of videos, pushed out tons of blogs just on how to do it yourself. We're actually building out an entire training course free of charge on the Vintory website that'll be coming here probably in Q2. But again, we want to help elevate kind of the entire industry and really appreciate partnering up with guys like you at the No BS podcast.
Thanks, man. We appreciate you and we appreciate Vintory, and thanks for joining. Well, let's get you back on in a little bit, and let's kind of see where things go. I'd love to get you on towards the end of the year and talk about your growth and talk about what we're looking at in the future as well.